Hello and welcome to Defending the Windy City with experienced attorney David Drwencke. David has committed his career to criminal defense and takes pride in working for those individuals accused of crimes and doing so in a passionate and non-judgmental way. I am your host, Kevin Rosenquist, and today we're going to discuss the lawyer and client relationship and how to build a winning one. David, great to see you again.
Good to see you, Kevin.
So can you introduce yourself again to our listeners in case this is their first episode, and tell them a little bit about your background and how long and how you have been practicing criminal defense law?
Absolutely. Again, my name's David Drwencke. It's a very confusing last name. The name of the firm's DRD Law. Those are my initials. That ended up being easier than trying to go with the last name.
Understood.
I'm a criminal defense attorney. I'm based in Chicago, Illinois. Criminal defense is what I've wanted to do literally my entire life. It oftentimes sounds corny or that it's like a sales pitch, but you go back to when I was in preschool and first grade. What do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be an attorney. And as I got older, started to refine that a little bit more. Nobody can explain why. Neither my mother nor my father were attorneys. So where that came from, nobody really knows, but it's where I thrive. I think it's this blending of just kind of natural gifts where I like to make an argument for people. I like to stand up for the little guy. That's always been my personality. I like the underdog, and being a criminal defendant in our system, you are the underdog.
You are the underdog.
And I like advocating for other people. It's oftentimes easier to talk for them than it is for myself. And, you know, I have a healthy distrust of the government and systems and what have you, which bears out in holding them accountable and holding them to their burden in our system. So I love what I do. I'm grateful that I was able to work for some great people. I was a judicial law clerk for 7 years in Oakland County, Michigan, who was a trial level judge, Judge Nichols, who it's been a little while, but I still chat with. I've watched hundreds of trials while I was doing that, and had an opportunity to talk to attorneys and talk to jury members and to talk to a judge every day. That was instrumental. Early in my career, after I passed the bar and became a young attorney, I worked for some renowned attorneys, folks who have won hundreds of millions of dollars in the civil world and have won some of the biggest celebrity cases in the criminal world as well, both in Michigan and Illinois, and got to learn from them and pick their brains and be around them as true masters of their craft. And then now a little over 4 years ago, I started my own law firm. Going back to DRD Law, we are laser focused on criminal defense. It's the only thing that we do, because I think to be good at something is to pick that niche and to focus on that. I'm not a general practitioner. I don't try to be all things to all people. And that combination of, again, what I think I was kind of put on this earth to do, these natural gifts, my own personal passion for this, because I truly love doing it. I get excited every day. I get fired up for every trial. It's that mixture of these things that get the best results for my clients. And I'm excited. I tell folks, you don't have to listen to me, you know, as a sales pitch or anything. Go on Google, read reviews, go to the website. Like, the results are there. And I'm proud that we can stand on that. So that's who I am. That's what we do. And I'm proud of it.
Yeah, your passion definitely comes through. There's no doubt about that. In your view, what are the key elements of a successful attorney-client relationship?
I could sum it up really in two words. It's trust and communication. Trust is huge.
It's like a marriage.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for at least a couple of months to maybe a little over a year, we are going to be married. We're going to be attached at the hip. And this is instrumental. You know, this is someone's reputation. It's their freedom can be on the line depending on, you know, just how serious the case is and what they're facing. But you need to trust one another, because if I'm providing legal advice to someone and I'm suggesting, because this is usually the most difficult and uncomfortable conversation to have,
absolutely,
I don't think we should go to trial, because I think we're going to lose, you know, and that's tough. Somebody hears that going, so I got to plead guilty. You know, I'm looking at time, how much time. That's an uncomfortable conversation, but I want to have built the rapport and the trust with a client that when I say that, they know I'm saying it because that is the legal advice. It's
because you're looking out for them.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I can appreciate a lot of times where it's like, well, we don't really know one another. You know, we've been together for 3 months and you're telling me I got to plead guilty. Are you telling me this because you don't want to go to trial, or that this is the path of least resistance? You don't want to fight for me. And again, I'm grateful that somebody can go and Google me and ask about me, that I go to trial constantly. It is never because I'm afraid to go to trial. And I can tell you there are plenty of attorneys out there, maybe it's surprising, they are afraid to go to trial, and state's attorneys know that, and they can leverage that fact against them. I'm not. that if I'm saying you should be taking a plea agreement, it's because it is in your best interest. I'm looking out for you. I want you to trust me in that. Now, how do you build that trust?
That was going to be my next question. Yeah, it's easier said than done, right?
Yeah, and it's in communication. Maybe it even comes through a little bit here on the podcast, but I'm an over explainer. My wife does not love that all the time, but it's the why matters. That if I'm telling you something, I'm going to explain why. Let me follow up. If I'm telling you a plea agreement is in your best interest, or a trial, or you should maybe consider a bench trial with a judge rather than going to a jury trial, here's the why. Let's go through this. I'm going to show the work so that you understand why that is, that it's not a knee-jerk thing. It's not laziness. It's not, I don't care about your case, or I don't want to, I'm too afraid to go to trial, or I'm too lazy, or whatever it may be. Because I think the constant fear is that this attorney is telling them to do something because a plea is easy. You're giving up. The case is done. You're not going to trial. You're not taking that risk. And you earn that through doing the work, showing the work, communicating, and earning that trust. So that it's crucial to have that relationship, communication, and trust.
Yeah, it's probably another one of those things too. With we talked about this before with movies and TV. Is that you've seen a lot of episodes of shows or movies where it's just that the guy who always pleads, always does, never goes to trial and all that stuff. So maybe that kind of seeps into people's subconscious too, and it creates almost a level of distrust out the gate.
Certainly. And unfortunately, there are attorneys who do have that reputation that I've never seen in trial, ever. And again, I'm in the Cook County buildings quite literally every single day. And I have trials set almost every week, which is a lot. I have a very healthy trial practice, but that's because the clients want someone who will fight for them. And then somebody who's good at it. And we have those results, but that's true. And it's also sometimes when we have a very strong public defender system, and there are some tremendous public defenders in the Cook County Defender's Office, but they have hundreds of cases. Like, I have a lot of empathy for them that these are too many cases. So a client thinks they don't even know my file. They're telling me to take the first deal. How do I know this is the best deal? How do I know I should even be taking this offer, among other things? They're just trying to churn me through the system. They both get paid by the government. They're like on the same side, even though they're telling me they're not. And those fears sometimes bear out, and there's realities attached to that. It's because they haven't communicated. It's like, I talk to my client or my attorney for 30 seconds every time I'm in court. That's it. I don't know what's going on with my case. I haven't looked at the discovery. How do I know this is the best deal, or what my options are? And I'll be honest, I've been on those calls where I'll tell a client, it's like, listen, this offer sucks. I have to tell you about it. I have an ethical duty to tell you have an offer. This stinks. Let's keep negotiating. Let's go and do a 402 conference with the judge, which is where we negotiate outside of the state. We're actually going to go straight to the judge to negotiate. Or let's continue to do more mitigation. Let's apply more pressure. That I'm not afraid to go to trial, because that goes a long way too. I have an example literally this morning, a case that is set for trial, granted not for a couple of months, but we walked in on an interim date and they looked at me. They're like, how do I get this off the docket? It's like, offer a misdemeanor. I can make, that's what he's actually done. Like, I'll be candid enough with the state. I'm also not every client do I go in there. They're all wrongly accused. There's no evidence. Yeah, I'll call a spade, and they'll appreciate, like, he's guilty of a misdemeanor. If you make that offer, I can make the case go away. Done. And nice. It's, and again, what would some other attorneys have done? Kind of strong-armed, or maybe tried to scare a client into taking an offer on the felony because they didn't want to go to trial. They didn't want to start to prep that. They didn't want to fill their calendar, and they weren't strong enough in their convictions, their abilities, or the facts to do that. I was on it. I know, the strengths and weaknesses of it. And so did the client, because we communicated. I said, they can't get you on the felony. This is nonsense. We can win that. Now we got issues with this other charge like that. And I was honest with the client, like, we're probably not winning that one. And he's like, yeah, well, if they'll offer that, I'll take that. Exactly. Good. And the state saw that as well. So having a good rapport with both your client and the state can go a long way too. And again, maybe you'd have to get them on the podcast sometime, but a state's attorney would say, hey, Dave is fair. He's honest. He'll call it how it is. And I can believe that. If he's asking for something, it's because there's a reason for it. He's not asking for a dismissal on all cases, even though that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that sounds right. So how should a client prepare for their first meeting with you?
Sure. Well, oftentimes when I'm meeting somebody for the first time, is they've called right into the firm, and we'll go from them calling into a consultation, assuming I'm available right away. Otherwise, they've called, maybe I'm in court, I'm not available. That happens a great deal as well. It's for a consultation. It's whatever questions you have. And that can be about, well, how do I pay for this? How
Yeah.
long is it going to take? What do these words mean? And that's in part why I enjoy doing these podcasts so much, is to demystify the jargon and manage expectations and so forth. But it's any question that you have, provide as much as you know about it. And sometimes it's not much. I get that. It's like, I have no idea why I'm charged with this. Or someone is calling on behalf of a loved one or a family member or something. And it's like, he's charged with this. I don't know anything about it. He or she is in custody, but they know they need an attorney and they don't know anything about what's going on.
Yeah.
So there are things I can learn. Most of the systems in Illinois are digital. So I can get online and get information and pull up details about who their judge is, the courtroom, the charges, and so forth, learn a little bit about the file, and then actually educate that prospective client or actual client about the case, but just bring questions. Like, that's what I'm here for. That's what I want to answer for you, so you can breathe and take the next step and hopefully lower that anxiety level a little bit.
What are some common pitfalls that clients should avoid in their interactions with attorneys?
Sure. Well, with your own attorney, there really aren't much pitfalls other than just not telling the truth.
Yeah.
I mean, you really can't overshare. You can text, you can email, provide documents. Maybe it relates, maybe it doesn't. You have a thought about something. You've done your own legal research. Most attorneys cringe at that. I semi-cringe. I learned things.
ChatGPT told me.
Yes. And when Google's told me, and that can be dangerous because there's some truths to it, and then there's some not accurate, but I'll follow up with it. But yeah, oftentimes over communicating is better than under, but also understanding oftentimes attorneys have more than one client in one case. Updates come more on the monthly variety. I'm very digital based. Text me, email me. I love it. That's an easy way for me to have a paper trail and follow. Cold calls are tough. I'm in court. I'm speaking to another client. I'm prepping a trial. I'm on a consultation.
You might be on the go. Yeah.
That's the reality. Text me. I'll sit in court and text people. I'll email you all day. Don't worry about it. But so with your own attorney, there aren't many other than just not communicating or lying about certain things or withholding. Communication with anybody else, that is where big pitfalls can be. If you're talking to other people about your case, it can come back to bite you. If it's something formal like the police or the state, they're going to use it against you. It potentially even a family member. If you're talking to somebody that you're housed with, you happen to be an inmate, somebody you were with, if you were just detained briefly, suddenly all of these confidential informants and jailhouse snitches come out. It's like, don't talk to people is the best advice about your case, including family members, because they may have a bone to pick with you as well, or you've upset them or whatever it may be. And now they can be a witness against you because you're the defendant. Your statements can be used against you. And because you're a party opponent, it can even get past hearsay objection. So it's super dangerous to be talking to anybody else. And then it's just a matter of being honest with your attorney.
Is it difficult to set realistic expectations regarding timelines and outcomes? Because I feel like that's probably a fairly difficult conversation that you could have in certain situations.
It is. I mean, there are rules of thumb. There's some basic expectations that come from just, I do this every day. So it's okay. This is a certain level of offense. This is probably a reasonable expectation for when I think we can get this done. Or, the complexity of the case. It's a possession charge. It's a gun as opposed to drugs. Okay. Nothing's going to the lab. There's no DNA. There's nothing that's going to cause a delay there. It's not that complicated. Okay, this is going to be faster. Or it is that complicated. Yeah, there is DNA. There's fingerprints. There's ballistics reports. All of these things have to go to Illinois State Police Crime Lab. There's huge backups there. It's like, brace yourself. This is going to be many months. That comes with experience. A lot of times where I think there can be a breakdown is with communication. That's one of the biggest frustrations that I'll hear from people that are coming from other private attorneys or public defenders. Like, I never talk to my attorney. I have no idea what's going on. I see him or her in court for about 30 seconds and then they're gone. I do, within reason, I want to communicate with my clients. I have a client portal, like I had mentioned earlier, text and email. The updates, when being realistic, they're not daily. They're not weekly. They're more along the monthly basis. So it's just trying to be realistic there. It's like, listen, I do have other clients. There are other files. There are other files that they're not more important than yours. They're more pressing because John Doe's case is going to trial on Monday. Yours was just arraigned. There's some time. We're going to work our way through it. But I never discourage a client from communicating because it's one of one for that client. And that's never lost on me. It might be one of, a handful of files I have. It's one-on-one for them. It's keeping them up at night.
Right.
It's all consuming.
I was just going to say all consuming. Yeah.
Absolutely.
How do you have some of those difficult conversations, like when you have to discuss, bad news or like you said, where you're just like, I don't know, if we go to trial, we're going to lose this. I mean, do you have kind of a method to handle that?
Well, I think it's approaching this as a human being and with empathy, but also saying, listen, this is what I would want someone to do for me. Or often I have very young children. They haven't done anything stupid yet or caught any charges. They're too young to do that. But it's like, this is how I would want someone to talk to my son or to talk to me, is that tell me the truth. Treat me like an adult. Treat me like a human being, like give me the why and explain it to me, but tell me the truth.
Be honest.
And that's sometimes it's actually, it's flattering where I will have a client that is so confident in my abilities. They've heard the right thing or they've seen me argue emotion. They're like, you did such a good job. You can beat this in trial. You can beat this. And it's like, listen, thank you. Let's start there. I'm grateful that you believe
flattered.
In my abilities. Yeah, I'm very flattered. Absolutely. And it's like, thank you for that. However, I want to be honest. Listen, I do this every day. This is my expertise. I've tried this type of case, this fact pattern before. I could see how this goes south for us. And I don't want to see you pay a higher price than you have to. Sometimes it's almost, you're saving a client from themselves because they don't want to accept that responsibility or the reality that maybe jail is going to be a part of that. And that's a tough and uncomfortable conversation, but it goes back to being empathetic, sympathetic, being a human being, being honest, and then just telling the truth. Here is why. I'm going to show you the work as to why we're going to do that or why you should go this direction. But it's also not a strong sell. I'm not trying to twist somebody's arm. Like, this is your life. This is your life. This is your case. You're the one who pays the consequence or reaps the rewards of, walking out and having a clean slate on this. That's not lost on me and it's not meant to be flippant. And that's exactly how I tell clients. You see the front door right there, regardless of how this trial goes, that's where I'm going to walk out of. And that's not, again, I'm not being flippant. It's like, I know that. I know you might not. And I want to see you go through the front door. I want you to walk out with me high-fiving and doing cartwheels because you're pumped about the result. But if that's not in the cards, or I don't think it will be, I owe it to you. Like, that's in part what you've hired me for, is to be honest. And it goes back to where we started this episode. Please, have the trust in me, and that hopefully I've earned that, so that when I tell you that bad news, I want you to accept it as being the truth. Now you have to make the right decision for you. If that's talking to a spouse or your loved ones, you got to pray on it, whatever it is, make the right decision for you, but know that the advice you're being provided is honest, real advice that I would give to my own son, my own family.
Yeah. And what trends do you see shaping the future of the attorney-client relationship?
A lot of it's digital. One of the biggest things now you can text your attorney, and now that, for better or worse, because I get text messages 24 hours a day. And again, I'm not like trying to talk my clients out of doing it, like communicate. I get it. You woke up in sweats at 1 a.m. and you had a thought. Send me a text. I'm going to turn my phone off, or I'm gonna mute it. I will eventually go to bed. I promise.
Yeah. I'm probably not going to answer, but right away. Yeah.
But I'll be able to respond, when I get up, and I'll follow up. But it's having a client portal. It's the ability of sharing things where I can do screen shares and we don't have to be in the same room. We can get on a Zoom or do a FaceTime or a Google Meet or whatever it may be. It's like, let's go through things. I'm going to show you the greatest hits of your case, the most important bits. I want to show that to you, and you can feel up to date. And that's tremendous, where we don't have to be in court. You don't have to come to my office, and it's the only way you can get an update. You can reach me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, because even there's no real such thing as a vacation. I've been in court on Christmas Day, as an example. These things happen. It's not optimal. It could cause issues with the family, but it's also part of the job that, things happen all the time. So I'll never dissuade you from communicating, but that's the biggest thing I would say is technology and the ability to communicate 24 hours a day.
Yeah, changes every aspect of life. Why wouldn't it change the attorney-client relationship, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us on Defending the Windy City with experienced attorney David R. Drwencke. To connect with David, head to drdlawllc.com. And don't forget to like and subscribe and leave us a review. David, always great to see you. Thanks for being here.
Good to be here. Thank you.